Alright, this video is going to be a complete guide to playing Quake 1 in 2025. It'll be a lot of information. It'll probably be about an hour long, so I'll put timestamps and chapters in the description along with the links to everything that we cover here. I think even people that are playing the game will find information in this video that they're not aware of, but for new players, this will be a complete overview of the game. We're going to cover the remaster available on Steam, adding in user-made content like additional maps and mods. We're going to cover speedrunning the game, playing online in deathmatch and team games, and then finally Team Fortress and FortressOne. So let's get started with a little bit of history here. We're talking about Quake 1, released in 1996 by id Software. At the time, they had already released Doom and Doom 2, so world famous, one of the biggest game developers at the time, and this was a huge title for them, really entering the 3D space that wasn't really there in the Doom engine. So this game became really the original esport. This was the first competitive game heavily played online, and a lot of the online culture that we still have stems from this game. Doom was playable online, but not really. It was really Quake that brought out the competitive first-person shooter for the first time, and there was tournaments held in this game. But thinking about the timeline at the time, this game was released in 1996. In 97, id Software did some ports like nQuake, which all the other source ports that we'll cover today are descended from that. They released 2 expansion packs for this game, also in 97, and then in 97 or 98 they released Quake 2, the follow-up sequel to this game. Some expansion packs for that, and then Quake 3, I believe, was 1999. So very rapid pace. Subsequent titles go on to this, so there was never an extended tournament scene that developed at the time, but being this iconic title, it's been played constantly since then and is still played today. So the source code was open sourced by id Software in the early 2000s there, along with Quake 2 and 3. But there was always some hang-ups there. The art assets, and I think some of the sounds and other assets like that, had licensing issues that hadn't been worked out in a way that they could be made open source. So we'll cover some open source alternatives, but ultimately the game has, particularly now with the remaster available for Steam, it's kind of returned to a proprietary title. So with the availability on Steam, though, it brought a lot of new features and benefits. The soundtrack by Trent Reznor is included with the game once again, and that's one of the best soundtracks in all of gaming. It's completely iconic along with the game. He did all the sound effects as well. Look at the Steam release here. Some of the features that they added. There's split screen co-op and the remote play features. You can play with other people. You can play with controllers now. There's crossplay for the console versions. You can play against console people online. There was originally some issues with this remastered version, but that's really been worked out by Night Diver and by the community patches. So now there's servers that can accommodate both the remastered version and the open source clients that we'll be looking at here. So a lot of cool features here, achievements. There was a expansion released a couple years ago, as well as another expansion, so each of those is adding a new episode on there. There's a new horde mode, easy co-op, and as I said, the crossplay all included now with this version. So definitely worth getting this version on Steam. It's $10. It's only available by itself at this time. They used to have a Quake pack that included the other Quakes, but they got rid of that. So it's just that package for $10. So look at SteamDB here. SteamDB.info will show us information about the game scraped from Steam there, and you can use that to check out the price history. So you see it's $10, but a lot of the sales, all the big sales and some other sales, it goes on sale for $4. So wait for a sale and pick up Quake for $4 on Steam there. So let's launch this up here and take a look at the remaster version here. Alright, we got nice splash screens here. We'll skip past these. So this may be a few more things on the menu than you're used to here, but we got everything built in here. You can view your achievements and some other add-ons and stuff right in the menu there. As you see here, when you start a new game, you can go to the original 2 expansions as well as the more recent expansions here. These are real solid. Everything about this game is, of course. So, on that note, if you haven't played through Quake, definitely play through it. It still holds up really well. The enemy AI is a lot of fun to play against. The weapons are fun to play with. It's just one of the best games of all time for good reason. So definitely play through that game, and now with it on Steam, you get the achievements and everything else. It's easier and more rewarding than ever to play through that game on single player. Alright, a couple notes on that. One is the soundtrack is prone to copyright strike. So if you play the game and you put it on YouTube or anything like that, or streaming it anywhere, you'll catch a copyright strike. The way around that is replacement music packs. There's a few available, and they're really just drop-in replacements. You download these packs. I'll link one here, and you'll end up with a zip file with a music folder. You're going to copy this music folder, and you go to your Steam library. You can right-click on Quake, go to Manage, Browse Local Files, and this will open up your Quake directory within your Steam files. So this file structure here is really the original Quake layout. So if you're looking to play the original version for some reason, it would be files within this id1 folder. Your re-release is within this re-release folder. So this is the re-release files here, and within this id1 folder is where you'll place this music. You can keep this music folder if you want, just by renaming it, and place your music folder there. Now when you launch the game, you'll have replaced music there that's safe for stream and for YouTube. Alright, once you've completed the single player game, you'll find that there's nearly 30 years of community created content to be added onto this game. So practically a limitless supply of maps and mods to be added onto this game. This site here is quadaddicted.com. That's always been the site for maps and mods and things like that. Add-ons for Quake. Pretty much everything that's been made is here on Quadaddicted. So you see here on under the maps here, we see the recent releases. You see the pace that it's being released. You know, this is dozens of maps released in the last year, and some of these are whole collections here. This is Map Center Quake Retro Jam 3, a pack of 15 small to medium vanilla maps inspired by Quake's early episode 2 levels, connected by a start map. Okay, so let's download this and add this on. Okay, in this case we have a bunch of files here. So what we're going to do is, again, open up our Quake local files here, and inside the re-release we're going to make a new folder here, and this was called what? Retro Jam 3, and inside that we'll put these files. And we'll make a shortcut to that. And then we'll edit the properties. And we'll add the launching command game Retro Jam 3. And we can rename our shortcut. Now we'll launch that. Start level. Choose our skill. Stygian Aquifer, Caffeine Freak. Okay, so that's how you install and run a custom episode or mod, which collection of levels. Similar process for installing individual maps. You just have to place them in your maps folder and then execute map and the map name. There are other mods that don't even necessarily include maps. They're just mods for building a pawn. Specifically Copper. Copper is a mod that map makers use to build on, and it offers extra enemies and some other features and stuff that weren't in the vanilla Quake. And another common one now is the Arcane Dimensions, which is denoted with the AD, which did have a really nice campaign, its own levels, and I think even a couple episodes included with the Arcane Dimensions. So that's really top of the recommendations if you're just getting into this, but that sets the bar really high with how impressive it is. But that became a platform for other map makers to build on as well. So a lot of these you'll see are for AD as well. So there's a trend of the vanilla style maps where it's just like the old school Quake levels. That's what we kind of just saw, where it might as well have been in the Quake levels. And then there's also a trend of pushing the limits of the engine and huge levels with moving features and other things that you wouldn't have been able to even see in the original engine as it was. So a lot of stuff to explore here. As I said, practically unlimited content here. Alright, the first source port that I'm going to talk about is QuakeSpasm. That's really commonly used for playing single player content. Especially before the re-release, this was really the best way to play any of those levels and extra mods and stuff that we're just discussing. So this is something you can check out. I'll put the link in the description, of course, and that offers a lot of quality of life improvements and stuff to the single player experience. It's not something I've had much experience myself with. I've always used JoeQuake for single player content. That's the speedrunning client source port, and that's always worked well because it has wide compatibility as well. And so that's something we'll talk about next. So Speed Demos Archive has always been the home of Quake speedrunning. Even before speedrunning was the term, and even really a concept for other games, Quake was really the first game that was really competed well. Doom was in the same way. It had the same features, and what those features were in the early days was that end of level timer that shows how long it took you to complete each level. So that, along with the demo recording, you could record a demo and then post it on the internet and play it back, and that allowed for sharing the records easily on those early internet. So Speed Demos Archive now hosts a lot of other games that also kind of spawned the speedrunning movement in its time, and Quake is now on this subpage here, Speed Demos Archive /Quake, and you see it gets updated here with posts every couple days or weeks with whatever the current batch of records is. This news archive here goes back in the archive, maybe I think all the way back pretty much to the release of the game almost. So nowadays you can get these video links and watch everything in the videos. But in the early days, sharing the demos was how these records were shared, and projects came from that were like opened and ran like mods and showed it like a whole movie, and that was the Quake Done Quick, and some of those early speedrunning projects like that were originally demo files that were put on and played in the game, but now you can watch them on YouTube if you care to. Even though the modern client JoeQuake offers more precise timing, the records are still held to the near second here on SDA. You have to beat a record by going to the next second, the next whole second there. And there's 4 categories of speedruns that are done here: easy runs, nightmare runs, easy 100, and nightmare 100. The 100% runs require all the kills and all the secrets, and the easy runs and nightmare runs just require getting to the exit, kind of an any percent run. Alright, here you'll see a list of maps. The original id maps listed out here, along with their authors, and the original expansions, and then into the custom maps and custom episodes that are listed out here. Inside these, you'll see the listings that extend all the way back to 1997 here. So 29 seconds was the original record, and 19 seconds is the record now. A lot of these runs have extensive history. Every one of these records was thought to be unbreakable and astonishing when it was broken. Alright, this YouTube channel, Quake Speedruns Explained, has high quality content on the history of some of these individual runs and other records that get broken. Alright, some of these records get broken and it's almost unbelievable the level that it takes to get there. And we're really lucky to have the high quality documentary content being created on these speedruns. So I'll link some of those in the description. Definitely check those out. And that gives context and some really cool angles and views of these records as they get broken here. Alright, to do any speedrunning, you'll need the JoeQuake client. That's a fork of the Quake client that's by speedrunners, for speedrunners, so it offers all the quality of life stuff that you want for speedrunning and allows more precise timing and everything needed for demos. So within the download section here on SDA, you can download this pack. You can get quakelite.zip and download that. Alright, we end up with this zip file here. We can extract that, and I'd always recommend just putting these on your C drive somewhere close to the root. Alright, you'll end up with this folder structure here. You'll see we have an id1 folder, but we don't have the pack 0 and pack 1 file that comes with the retail game. So we'll go to our Steam library, manage, browse local files, and within our id1 folder here, we'll take these and we'll copy those and we'll paste them here. That will allow us to open our JoeQuake. Get a warning. Okay, with JoeQuake on the menu here, we have access to our maps. You see it's some of these maps included: the benchmark 100 meter, 110 meter hurdles, the 400 meter, and a stripped down version of that, the big oval, for testing your bunny hops. When you add more custom maps in there, you can just launch them directly from the menu here. We have a demos folder here for watching your demos directly from the menu here. So we can watch a demo here. We can watch the 19 seconds E1M1 with the barrel boost. Being that it's a demo, you can set whatever visuals you want here. And being as that this is JoeQuake, you can change your playback speed and some other options there as well. Some nice features here. You can launch your mods directly from the menu here as well. Okay, so as you'll see in the instructions on the Speed Demos Archive site, the way you want to go about this is type bind and then a key, maybe R, open quotes, record, you know, my demo, whatever you want to name your demo, and then whatever map you want to run. Then if we're on a map here, pressing that key will restart us and start recording a demo. One thing you want to be aware of is what skill level you're on. You can check that by typing skill in console. It starts you off on 1, which is actually medium. If you want the easy, type skill 0. Now when you restart the map, you'll be playing on easy skill. If you want nightmare skill, you go to skill 3. 1 and 2 is medium and hard, which aren't speedrun categories. Okay, so now that we have that set up to record and restart, when we press the R key, we can record a demo here. So one thing you want to do is be pressing forwards at the time that you restart. That'll allow you to start right away. There's a quirk in the engine that the timer starts at like 1.4 seconds. That's just the same for everybody. But by pressing W and starting that way, you can get the best start here and use all your movement techniques available in this really complex game, just for moving around. No barrel boost in my runs. It's slowed down by everybody. If you don't like your run, just tap R, restart it, and that's kind of the nature of speedrunning, is just grind out as many runs as you can, get consistent with it, find what you can do, and push it to the limits, and then put in that time it takes to get lucky, like those little boosts and stuff you get. Stuck on everybody. There we go, 37 seconds. So not good enough for a record, but good enough for demonstration purposes. So one important thing that you want to do is type stop in console there to complete your demo and stop your recording. It's also possible you can just quit the game at this point, and that will also stop your demo, but cleanest and safest to intentionally just stop your recording in the console like that. If I were to press R to do the restart, that would then overwrite that file again, and you don't want to tragically lose your record setting pace on an accidental restart. So at this point, quit the game, and inside of our JoeQuake we have a new file here called mydemo.demo. Alright, if this was a demo that we wanted to submit for a record, then this is what we do. We'll rename this record. And what was that record? 37 seconds or something crazy. Alright, so do some kind of standard naming convention like this. And then we'll also typically create a text file. Alright, and in this text file, we'll put our name, what the record is, and anything we want to say about it. Save that. And now we want to compress this demo file and this text together into a zip file. And we're going to use a utility here that's included with this QuakeLite pack called dzip. So the GUI is probably the easiest way to do this. You open that up there, and then you take your demo file and your text file and you drop it into here. And we can save it right there. We'll give it the same file name. And that creates this new file with the extension .dz, demo zip there. And that's the file that we'll send in. You see in the guide section here, the email quake@speeddemosarchive.com. That's where I'll send it. I think it's also possible to submit on the Discord now. And you'll see a full written guide here explaining this process here. What the rules are. I wouldn't recommend changing very much. Just set your controls and your config you want and run your demos, run your runs. Everything else is kind of a crutch, and if you have to ask, you probably shouldn't be doing it. There is co-op. Co-op's a little tricky on this kind of engine, so I would just consider that kind of an advanced thing if you get into it. And some tips and tricks here. Yeah, the short of co-op is you have to do a VPN, which isn't too challenging if you're used to it, but it's a whole big thing if you're not used to it. So that's how you make your runs. As for choosing what to run, if you're getting into speedrunning, the id maps are not necessarily the best place to start, but at the same time, you've got a lot of examples in history there. It can be really fun to run those and see how you compare in the historical runs. I've got a video on this channel of me doing a 30-minute pace of the entire game, single segment, so you can check that out. I like the route there. I did not any of the crazy tricks, just the simple stuff there, except for some rocket jumping and maybe a couple grenade jumps that I don't remember. But you can use that as an example or a benchmark, try and beat my time there. And another way to go about this is looking at these custom maps. I just showed on QuakeSpasm how many custom maps are released for this game. You can run a map even if it's never been a record set on that map, just as long as it's like any normal reasonable map that's out there on QuakeSpasm there. Just set the pace, send it in. You might need to send a link to the map on QuakeSpasm with it there if it's not already listed here. And that'll be a table filler record there. We can look here at this map, ZE1 M5, and this has an easy run and a nightmare run with this guy Basil just putting down the nightmare run. So there is no 100% runs in this level here yet. So that's just waiting for somebody to put down the pace there. And there's plenty of other levels out there that you can put down a run on and get involved in the speedrunning that way. So don't be intimidated by the pace that's set by some of these veteran runners. Alright, we're going to look at speedrun.com now, which is another website that has more recently become the home for speedrunning in general across all games. So on this site, there's a Quake page. And you see runs listed here. Full game runs. And then there's also individual level runs, episode runs. Some of these were populated from leaderboards for some bunny hopping levels on Speed Demos Archive years ago, and so that's where some of these original records came from. But these leaderboards are now open for anybody, so it's not the same as Speed Demos Archive where you have to beat a record to be posted there. Here you can put any pace here and put that in as your record here. There's also another category that's ran here, and that's a time attack. The difference being with the single segment runs, like on Speed Demos Archive, it has to be without dying, where on a time attack you can save your game as often as you like and load your game, and thus retry tricks as many times as you want and approach some of things differently. So neither methodology is more or less valid. It's just a different way of running that's become more standard in other games, and so that's also acceptable here. It's just timed kind of on a different scale separately here. There's also some different requirements here for submitting. If you have your demo, then you should be good anywhere, but I think here you can just post a video of your runs as well. But check out your rules here if you want to be posting on speedrun.com. Alright, there's also a community Discord there. If you got any questions, if you get stuck on anything, ask your questions there for any speedrunning specific stuff. So don't be intimidated by the current level of speedrunning at the top. Definitely get involved if this is interesting to you. Quake is really rewarding to speedrun. The mechanics are just so fluid and fun. So that's the speedrunning side of things. Alright, I want to mention this project LibreQuake. This is available on GitHub here. If you go to the downloads here, you can get a replacement Pack 0 and Pack 1 file. These are made with open source assets. This solves the problem of the assets not being open sourced at the same time in the same way that the game code was. So if purchasing a copy is not an option for you and you don't otherwise have access to a copy, or if you're looking for a pure open source solution, or you're looking to start a new kind of fork from a base that you know is open source, you can start with these Pack 1 and Pack 0s. Just download from here, grab this full here, and you get the id1. You can then, you get the id1 folder that you need to drop into any of these engines that we mentioned, and they also have a few listed here. So this should work for any of that single player stuff that we discussed. Even that speedrunning stuff, as far as I know, it would just be different textures and stuff displayed on your side as you're recording the demo, so I don't think you'll have any compatibility there. If you do, post below or let Lavender there know. I'm sure they would be interested in fixing any issues that are there, but as far as I know, it would just be a replacement drop-in even for speedrunning. And definitely for online as well. You can use any of these multiplayer source ports for playing online using this pure open source id1 folder. Otherwise, you're going to want the id1 folder, or at least the Pack 1, Pack 0 files as I showed into the JoeQuake installation. I have a separate video installing and playing with LibreQuake. I'll link that below. that brings us to online play. So you're gonna want a different source port for online play. There's several available. I would recommend ezQuake. That's the standard for most people, and a lot of the other ones available are even just forks off of ezQuake, trying to add in some more features. But there's just all the features you need in ezQuake. You'd be surprised at the quality of life features that have been added in. It's really nice and just a pleasant experience now with some of these features added in here. For installing this, there's a wrapper for it called nQuake, and that's what I would recommend for installing this. I've done a separate video on installing it, though it's not too complicated. There's some options as you install it for what all you want to install with it, and you'll just install this as a separate installation. Again, I would say just close to the root on your C drive is safest and easiest, and this has everything you need for playing online. Alright, when you've completed your installation of nQuake, you'll have this kind of folder structure here with your ezQuake executable, your id1 folder, and a Fortress folder for Team Fortress if you've installed Team Fortress with nQuake. I should note that the version that comes with nQuake is the original Quake World Team Fortress that was made by people that were hired by Valve that went on to make Team Fortress Classic and then went on to make Team Fortress 2, but largely wasn't updated since then, and so that version is not really played now, but there are some Russians that play that game, I found. So a couple Russians that play some pickups in that version of Quake World Team Fortress, but most of the games that get played are in newer versions like FortressOne or forks off of that. So we have a QW directory here for Quake World. In here is where you're going to want to put your configs. I've already got mine here. I've got mine as a system link here. I've got a separate video on how to set those up. The advantage of that is then you can have your configs in a separate directory altogether, and then just link them here in your individual client directories as needed. So you don't have different versions of your configs floating around. You only have just the one file on your hard drive that you have linked wherever else you need it. And also it's then easy to back up that folder because it's just your configs there all together. You have an auto exec here, but you don't need to do anything with that. That's just ezQuake stuff. So for my config here, I actually have it publicly available on GitHub. So we'll take a look at that. With this kind of config, you just make the text file, except it has a .cfg extension instead of a .txt. And then to execute it, you type exec and the name of the file. So here, I haven't updated this in a couple of years, but this should be good. This will also function to stop the sound and clear any binds that are here. Got some extra stuff for the modern clients and stuff. You could probably even have a higher rate. I wouldn't recommend just copy pasting this whole file, of course, but take what you want from this. And I've got some explanations of what's going on here. This GL max size is a useful setting. You can make the textures blocky and simple, and that's a nice look, but I've actually turned it back up to the default here so I could see the maps better. Some of these new maps look pretty nice. It has built-in full bright models. I have this set here that enemies will be bright green and friendlies will be normal looking Quake guys with white shirt and white pants on. I found that easiest to identify the friendlies and the enemies quickly. Lowers the view height. I kind of got used to crouch jumping in some other games, and so that feels natural too, and the guns shoot straight out. So if you like that setting, here's a map of a QWERTY keyboard for reference on the below binds here. So pretty standard WASD, and then most stuff around here is just communication stuff, because the way the weapons are working on the mouse here, you see these binds here, the plus fire, and then this is a order that'll try and shoot things. So you can customize this however you like, but this means that you don't have to switch weapons, because you'll just always be able to shoot anything you want instantly. That's because there was always no weapon switch time in Quake. And then there's some other things going on. Really what was happening was, when you die, you drop whatever weapon you're holding. So if you're holding a rocket launcher, you'll drop the rocket launcher. And so the community added scripts. Everyone was running scripts to switch away from your rocket launchers back to your shotgun every time you shot, just so you would always be dropping a shotgun instead of dropping your rocket launcher. So in order to kind of level the playing field and make things simpler, those have now been built in to the client, along with these extra fire commands and some other, these are the quality of life things that are just nice to have in a modern client. We also have some server commands built into the function keys here. Some of these are default and some of these are added in, but server functionality like readying up for games, it's just nice to have on the press of a key there. So take what you want from this. Got a couple stuff over here on the number pad, and then these are the communication spines and some setup for making those look pretty. So that's Quake config on the GitHub here. So check that out and take what you want from that if you're looking to have any kind of config for your game. That's definitely how I would recommend doing it, is having a config that you can execute, and then if you want to use a different client, you just have to, at the least, just have to copy your config over there and have that over there. Don't worry about copying your maps folder around or trying to install different clients on top of each other to save space on your hard drive or anything like that. It's just not that big. None of these clients are going to grow, and the maps just download so instantly. Like the maps are like 50 kilobytes each. Like it's nothing. So they just download what you need in client, and the only thing you really need to worry about is just copying your config around. Okay, so the next thing to address here is servers, and there's a few sites you can use to find servers. This is quakeservers.net, and it has some different Quake games here. Note that the Quake that's listed here is the original, what we would now call nQuake, which no one really plays. There's a few servers up running some Rune Capture the Flag, 3-wave something here. Yeah, but that's about it. What we're playing here is Quake World. That's, and everything is a fork off of that. So as you see, we have 658 servers. These servers are really lightweight, really easy to host now. So it's become standard to host 5-10 servers off of one Amazon instance, and that's what these are here. So this is like a Sydney, Australia for FortressOne, and so they've got the different ports on an IP address hosting different types of servers here, and then they even have the IP address hidden with a domain name. So really nice setup there. This lets you see what servers are around. You can sort, see who's playing and stuff, see what modes are available and stuff. And so this is the way to find, if you just want to grab an empty server or something like that, just jump on here and see what servers are available. There's this website, badplace.eu, and this site shows what servers are actively playing games and what the statuses of them are. So we can see here we have 36 players online right now, 18 playing and 18 spectators on 13 servers. And we can look at the games that are going on. We got a 4v4 game forming up here. We have a 1v1 game going on here. And then 4 people are watching it. Stand by for a free-for-all game there. And a couple people idling in a couple other servers. So that's kind of the state, what you might expect on an average night here. So to anyone getting into online Quake, my advice would be to try and bring somebody with you. Have a buddy from another game or something. It's really easy to get into the online Quake. There's free options there just on the nQuake installer, really easy to install, and jump on these servers and start playing. And so that's going to be your best bet, is to jump on the servers and play some one-on-one. I'll show you on the servers here how to set those modes, but when you're playing one-on-one, you'll see other people jumping in and watching you play. There's a big culture of watching. It's not uncommon to see more people spectating games than playing games, and not uncommon to see more people spectating games in-game than watching on Twitch. That's just because of the history here of the game predating streaming. So people will drop in and watch you play. Generally, people are not going to be rude enough to challenge you to a game if you're not in skill range as they are. Sometimes that'll happen though. People will jump at the opportunity to stomp a new kid. But generally, people are only going to look for games that are reasonable. And if more people get on the server, generally there'll be larger games formed. People will want to form up a 2v2 if that's possible. And then even the 4v4s whenever that's possible. So that's really your way into Quake. As I said, your best bet's going to be taking somebody with you and playing them 1v1, and some other people show up and challenge you guys to a 2v2 or something like that'll happen. But let's jump on the server here, and I'll show you how these servers work here. Okay, so you'll just type connect and paste that IP address in the console there. Great. So now we're connected to the server here, and we're in a map hub here. So much like a start map, you use these different entrances to select the mode that you want to play, and the different modes that are available on the server here. We got the 1-on-1, 2-on-2, 4-on-4, race mode, trick mode, and capture the flag, and aim maps. So lots of maps available here. The original Quake shipped with some deathmatch maps included, but to put it bluntly, they didn't really know what they were doing when they were making deathmatch maps, so it's kind of hit and miss on these. Some of these maps are classics and still played. Some of them are not good for online play. So there's some of these maps are early classics that were created in the first couple years of playing Quake Online. Aerowalk has now been ported to pretty much every arena shooter since then. ZTN DM3 in the same way. ZTN was a player and a mapper there, and he made a whole series of maps. DM3 is the most famous one, known as Blood Run. And then more and more maps added on the way. So we can walk into here, and we're on this map, Blood Run, which you may recognize from other games. So this is a common map here that's still played. So, it's so easy just to get sucked into the movement of this game. So the thing about Quake is that it's completely imbalanced, and by that I mean the rocket launcher is completely overpowered and is really the only relevant weapon in the game. The lightning gun has its uses, the grenade launcher has its uses, but really the rocket launcher is what the game is about. The armor is overpowered compared to what we would expect in a modern game, and so whoever's controlling the armors and the weapons and the healths has a huge advantage in the game. The quad damage as well, of course, which is also pretty overpowered. So it's relatively easy to control all the items on a map and just make circles around the map, picking up all the items, and your opponent has a very difficult time getting into the game at all. And if there's any sort of skill difference between you and your opponent, even a small difference, say 5 or 10% difference in skill, then there'll be a huge difference in the scoreboard. And that's what we mean by imbalanced. There's no comeback mechanics or anything like that, anything that's going to keep you in the game at all. If there's any sort of difference in how they're playing better than you, then it's just going to be 20-0 on the scoreboard. And that gets even more so when you get into team games. It's even more so. So that's just part of the game. Everybody knows it. If you're playing and there's any sort of close score at all, that means you're really well close matched, and it's kind of back and forth. That's just a really close game, and it can often come down to map knowledge. I would advise you to learn just 1 or 2, maybe 3 maps, learn them well. Play some others, don't become a one-trick pony, know your way around the maps, but if you really focus on one map and learn it, you'll really understand the pacing and the flow of it and how to play it, and it can be really rewarding, and you'll get up there and start winning some matches off of random people in the game. So that's how to go about it as a new player. You see how my config's set up here, just left and right clicks for these things, no weapon showing, no weapon switch time or anything like that. Alright, so somebody else on the server here, you can enable the 1v1 settings just by typing 1v1 in console, or by doing that at the initial with that starting up map there. Then hit F3 or type ready in console, it'll ready up, and it'll do the countdown and everything. Every server's like this now. So now we're going into a duel right away. We want to start by grabbing a rocket launcher or a weapon or something like that, try and get some armor here. He's probably got the quad if I remember right. Oh, -1 off the gate here. You see how this can spiral out of control real quick. -3 down on him right now. Yeah, he's gonna mop the floor with me here. Yeah, he knows it. Oops. Oh yeah, that was particularly brutal. Yeah, he is gonna run the floor with me. At least I got an armor. Still confident in this. Oh, my aim. It doesn't help that I can't hit anything. Oh. We're 9 minutes remaining. This could be a long game. So, you see how easy it is to find a game, start playing. If there wasn't such a skill curve, if there wasn't so high to go on this game, then it wouldn't be worth playing. And that's why we're playing it, is that you can get so good, like this guy Fear here. Is he just using off weapons? Yeah, he's just playing with his food now, I think. See if I can catch him at anything at all here. Oh, he's jumping up here off the teleporter. Oh, yeah. You see how good you can get at this game. I don't need to keep saying that. You see how this game plays. We'll probably cut this off right here and jump back to some other topics. There's some guides that I'll link here. The first one's this playlist. QWTF teaches Quake World duels. Tons of knowledge here. Couple hours of QWTF. He's that QWTF from QWTF's Aim Trainer. He used to be a Quake World player. I think still is on occasion. But years ago he made this whole series laying out the fundamental principles of online play, and then specifically how to duel on these maps. Like all the specific skill sets to dueling. And then similarly, here's a playlist, a link on 4v4s, going through some specific maps, and then some specific perspectives you need for 4v4s. Alright, so when you learn how to duel, 2v2s are not that dissimilar from dueling. You can move to 2v2s and kind of keep the same kind of skill sets. It's just a lot more going on. You have two people to shoot at, and you have a friendly guy around. But the 4v4 is kind of a whole different animal. There's some different settings and some different play styles even that come out. Really, the goal becomes get one person on your team stacked out with weapons and ammo or armor, and after that maybe get more people stacked out. But it becomes like a juggernaut running around, and maybe running into their juggernaut running around, and big battles like that. And a lot of people just with the shotguns, because they just keep respawning, and if one team pulls away, then we're talking scores of 100-0 just over a couple minutes. So real intense style of play. Some people love it, but I would suggest working up to it. Maybe after playing 2v2s for a while, you'll find it easier to find more balanced matches in 1v1s and 2v2s as well. So that's, I think, everything I wanted to say about the online play. And we'll move to our final topic of the evening, which is FortressOne. So, as I mentioned there, the original Quake World Team Fortress from 1996 is not really played. There is some Russians I found that played it, but Americans and Australians and such that are playing Team Fortress now are playing FortressOne or new forks off of that. So FortressOne.org is where you can get that and get started here. You download the client here, standalone client, so you can just install it in another directory. Again, I would just say C, close to the root, is your best bet there. You'll get all the maps and stuff you need as you connect to the servers. And you'll definitely want to jump on the Discords. That's where all the games are found. You'll now sign in with your Discord here using this button here, and it'll give you a token, which you copy paste into your console in game, and that'll link your Discord to your client. And then you can find some pickups there. That's played pretty regularly. If not the FortressOne, then Quake World Team Fortress Live, I believe, is the more played fork at the moment. I've posted a few guides that I'll link below. If you've played Team Fortress Classic or Fortress Forever, then there's just no learning curve to FortressOne. It's really the same style game. I would say just the same kind of difference between Team Fortress Classic and Fortress Forever. Just that level of difference, and that's all we're talking about. If you've played Team Fortress 2, but not the others, then there's definitely some learning to get the flow of the game, the pace, the style of flying through the air at these high speeds and stuff, and throwing these grenades. But the fundamentals are still kind of the same, where you have an offense and a defense who are capturing the flag. You're working together, your engineers, your demo man, heavy weapons guy. Those things are really all the same. And so I don't think it's too much of a curve for someone coming from Team Fortress 2. If you haven't played any of those, but you're coming from just playing Quake World Deathmatch, then again, it's not too much of a curve because it's the same engine and same weapons involved there. The Quake Wars, the Team Fortress mod came about by an attempt to kind of rebalance and re-engineer the team deathmatch experience, or the team capture the flag experience, by splitting up the weapons to different classes, and by spawning with a full kit, you're then not having to collect up armor and weapons. You're then just focusing solely on the gameplay, and because there's different roles involved and different strengths and weaknesses of the classes, you're having to work as a team and have some kind of communication, and that's the Team Fortress experience that we love. So the rocket launchers, the nail guns, the shotguns and stuff were divvied up on the classes, the original classes, and then pretty quickly the other classes were added in, heavy weapons, pyro and spy and stuff, with some new weapons and kit. And that's Team Fortress, and the maps and stuff kind of defined the gameplay after that. So lots to love there. Check out those guides if you're interested. Get on the Discords and find games in your region. And I think that is going to bring this guide to a close here. So post below if you got any questions. Thanks for watching. Drop a like there. Subscribe to the channel. That helps the algorithm a lot, and it'll start showing this video to other people. Feel free to share this anywhere that Quake might be played, and onboard some more people on there. Give any feedback you got on this guide. Maybe I can iterate it, and I'll be making other guides for other games. So check back on to this channel if this is content that you're interested in. Thanks again for watching. That's it.